Hi, hi, hi. Good evening. How are you doing today? How's today? How are you? How are you? How are you? Ah, today was interesting for me. Today was interesting for me. But yes, happy to be back with C Sweet Speaks. Happy to be back. Happy to be back. Happy to be back. So if you're on LinkedIn and you can hear me, please let me know. If you're on YouTube, I believe we're live on YouTube as well. Let me know. We are not yet live on Instagram, but we will be shortly. YouTube and let's see, YouTube and LinkedIn. Please let me know if you're here. Mm, It's been an interesting time. I've not come back live for quite a while. I was trying to think to remember, but it's been quite a while that I've been live, right? And yeah, we're here today, and we want to pick up on C Suite Speaks. It's been a while. We come live on C Suite Speaks. So here we go today. Welcome, welcome. If you can see me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, please let me know. Um, how has the year been for you? We are already in March. We're already in March. Oh. Today is third. Already in March, and the question is, how has today been for you? How has the year been for you so far? How has the year been for you? High points, just general points, just surviving. At some point, some days are just like, you know what, let's get up in the morning, let's do what we need to do, and let's move, like just being alive and well is kind of enough at this point, right? I know I've had those days. I'm just grateful that okay, we are alive and well today. Let's just move. Today we are alive and well. Let's just go, right? So, how are you? How's your day been? We have a guest this evening who I'm going to ask to join us shortly. Just as a recap, if you are just catching my life for the first time, my name is Nneka Jethre Wobe, known as the Happy Employee Coach, and I have made it my mission to make as many people, or rather to teach as many people as possible how to be happy at work. So I made it a mission to teach as many people as possible how to be happy at work. I believe strongly, and by virtue of coaching and experience, I have proven that to be true, that people can actually learn to be happy at work. First of all, I believe everybody deserves to be happy at work. Everyone deserves to be happy at work. Everyone deserves to be happy at work. And I believe it can be a learned skill, literally. The art of being happy at work. That's a book title. Oh. Hmm. You heard it here first. The art of being happy at work. And if you have been in any of my lives, watched any of my videos, followed me even for a day, you would know that we always drop value, right? We always drop value, value, value all the way. So do well to repost on your page. Do well to let people know that we are live and that there's value about to be dropped. The beautiful thing I like about these lives is that it allows you opportunity to ask questions. It allows you opportunity to you not well, not even to ask, yes, but to learn from others. And for me, like I've always said, literally every C-suite speak that we have done has spoken to me in particular. No, what's that thing called? No pun intended, but every C-suite speak has spoken to me in particular. I've always left with learnings, with lessons, and I'm like, why didn't I start doing this thing earlier? And I started doing it because I thought I was going to be helping people, right, to grow in their career. But turns out that I am the one that has benefited the most, right? So we are live now, and yeah, I'm looking for my notes. So I'm going to invite our guest up shortly, and we are going to start. Sorry, guys, just give me a minute. Your turn. One thing that can push to withdraw. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Like I said, please let others know that we are live and we are starting now. Sorry, guys, mommy duties, but impact calls. Okay, so our guest will soon join. Since we speak is the time where you get to where you get to learn from other people's experiences, where you get to come up and you learn from what people are doing, what people have done. You get to see how they have navigated their own career. You get to see their stories, hear their stories, and find where you can, find where you can see commonalities between your own experience or your own today and their yesterday. So I'm finding meeting points between their own today and their own yesterday and your own today, right? Meeting points between their yesterday and your own today, and that's such a beautiful thing about C-Suite Speaks, right? uh yes, so I've invited our guest. He'll soon be here. I really fantastic. So our guest is here. Let's do this. Hey, good evening, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please confirm you can hear me too.
Fantastic. I can, but if your volume can go up a little bit more, it would help.
Okay. This is about the loudest on my side here.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, for maybe other people will be able to hear better, but that's fine. Let's carry on. Let's carry on. So our guest is here, and I'm very excited to have Mr. Mokikon with us. I've known him for years. Thinking about it now, I don't even know how many years, but at least not less than 10 years. Yeah, it
Way
is
more than
definitely
that.
not
Way
less
more
than
than
10 years. I may not be able to get the exact number of years, not less than 10 years, right? And I'm just very excited to have you here with us this evening. Thank you for saying yes to coming live at short notice. I don't take it for granted. I am grateful, right? So we're starting right away. I've done some preambles, and speaking up around it. But what the way I like to do this, right, is to share with our guests, okay, everybody that comes on why we are here, just to provide that context, okay, of why we are here. And this is how I like to say it. I like to say that I started sometime in 2020 or 21. I started going live to teach people, give people like weekly tips, Sunday evenings, weekly tips on how to be happy at work. After a while, I kind of discontinued that. But sometime last year, while listening a couple of times to Steve Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, I thought this is exactly experience sharing, storytelling. And I felt we don't have anything that tells employees stories, of what's happening, especially in our own climb here in Africa, right? Those stories of telling you how I grew at work, how I succeeded. You just come on LinkedIn, you see people's profiles, and the profile looks so exciting, and you're like, hey, God, when? Hey, well, people are thinking all of that. And I find that we don't really paint the picture of the amount of hard work it takes to grow. The accolades are there, the stories are there, but we don't paint that detailed picture of the amount of hard work it takes to grow. And people just see all the glitz and apparent glam. They don't see the groanings, right, and the grueling hours behind those stories. So what I decided to do is say, let's tell those stories. Look for leaders and just say, come and tell your story. Where did you start from? How did you get here? How has it been? And that's what C-Suite Speak is about. So it's really my guests run the show, literally. I'm just providing the guidance as you just walk through your story. It's almost like the way I like to say it is you are telling younger Jimmy, Jimmy of 20 years ago a story, Jimmy of 15 years
Yeah.
ago a story, and saying, what have I learned? What would I want someone that I would like to climb on my shoulders get from my story, right? So that's what this is about. So we'll get into it by you introducing yourself, and then we'll take it from there. So just introduce yourself, whichever aspects of you want us to meet, please feel free, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay. Thank you. thanks. I think the last time we
Okay, you are
saw,
back now because we lost you for a bit.
I might. I hope it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, I'll just switch network. Well,
Okay.
apologies. We're in Nigeria, so yeah. I said maybe the last time we saw must have been Pastor Kumbi's birthday. I think so. I think that
Yes.
was when we saw.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And like you said, it's been a long time, more than 10 years. Thinking about it. Okay, my name is Jimmy Mukiko. My first name is actually Emmanuel, but of course, not too many people who know that. So sometimes I like to create that confusion among some of my family as Emmanuel, those that know as Jimmy. My career has been kind of interesting. So I come from, my dad is an HR person. My mom is I said my mom. My sister is an HR person also. So I think HR kind of runs in the blood in the family. So HR was not what I wanted when I was coming out. So interesting thing about me, I like to tease people to say I married the most beautiful woman in the world. So and when you see my wife, you know that I have a beautiful wife. So, and many of my friends will say, what did you use for her and all of that. So I think that's so. Currently, I work with Money Master PSB as the head of HR. Yeah, I think that's. I'm a very shy person. I'm camera shy, but yeah.
Yes, thank you
Okay,
very much. There seems to be a maybe like a fan is on somewhere close to you.
okay. Let me
I
just
think
hold on.
it's so if
Hold
you could
on. Let me.
just shift it back a
Yeah.
little bit. So just
Yes.
shift it back a little bit. It seems to be affecting the sound a little.
I think it should be better now.
A lot better it is. A lot better it is. A lot
Okay.
better it
Okay.
is. A lot better it is.
Uh,
So it's interesting, you've talked about your background, your dad as an engineer, your sister as a HR person. So let me just ask, right? What did you study in school first? If I ask the question I want to ask.
okay. Sorry if you can hear me. I want to just switch network briefly. I think I'm having some network challenge here.
Okay, that's fine.
Uh,
Please go ahead.
hold on.
So everyone watching, please repost on LinkedIn, post on your WhatsApp status, post on the pages that you on your LinkedIn page, right? And let people know that we are live on C-suite speak, where they get to learn from leaders at the C-suite level how to grow their career. And you can ask questions, right? Let people know that we are live. It's the first one for this year, right? And it's been tough planning this, to be honest, because life has been busy on many fronts for me. But yes, we're here and believing that we'll make this happen and continue to make the required impact, right? Just continue to make that
I,
impact and reach out to people.
I think I'm back now.
Yes, you
I
are
hope
back.
this. Yes. So I studied business administration for my first and second degree. So again, I'm one of the very privileged Nigerians who said, okay, this is the course I want to study, and I got that course. But they actually didn't start that way. So, and I guess maybe one of the questions would be, how did I venture into HR and all of that, which is a bit tied to. So, I didn't quite have a relationship with my dad at the early stage. So I was looking for a course that I can do, or a profession that I will never need my dad's help. And what I could think of was medicine. My dad is quite very cerebral, people who know him very well and all of that. So if I think of law, which he eventually went back to school to do, law wasn't going to be it. So I thought, what could it be? Medicine. The man would not know anything about medicine. So all through secondary school, I was a science student. My first jam, it was for medicine that I put in for, and I kept looking for admission and all of that. But an interesting part was when I was leaving secondary school and everybody asked, what course do I want to study? I would always write medicine or business administration. And they would ask me, what's the correlation? And I say, I don't know. But there was a part of me that was saying, guy, medicine is not your calling. This is the direction. So, but the I just didn't want anyone to depend on my dad and all of that. So, well, eventually, I think after about 3 years at home waiting and all of that for admission, and I was doing well in JAM, but I just wasn't getting admission for medicine. And the year that I decided to put in for business administration, I got the admission straight away. So from day one from university, I knew I was going into HR. And immediately after school, I got a job with Restream Consulting. Again, uh, I joined their HR team. I worked with Dorothy. She was my first line manager, Dorothy Tunde Ajela. And then left and went for NYC, came and joined Glow. And I remember in my conversation with Glow, they asked me, what do I want? And I said it was HR. I was like, okay, if there is nothing else available, anything other than HR. And I kept insisting it was HR I wanted. And at the end of the day, I got the HR. So that was how really my HR career started.
And
Interestingly,
mm,
interestingly, it was 3rd of March 2005 when I joined Glow. And today is 3rd of March. Interestingly, I just remembered now.
so that's how many years? Hey, mathematics.
That's 21 years.
Wow.
Post NYC 21 years, yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. As I
Wow.
was just talking, I just remembered.
Wow. And interesting. I like this coincidence. I really like it. I like the coincidence. Interesting that you were looking
Yeah,
for a course that will take you away from your dad because of the relationship. And I find it
yeah,
important to say that for anyone listening, maybe you are just in school now, maybe you feel like, did I choose the right course? Was I rightly influenced? Somehow you can still be able to find fulfillment on whatever job or career you get into. I think for me that's the lesson. The trigger for your course of study, for the first job that you get, may not exactly be what you consider ideal. It's not like there's anything that is ideal, right?
yeah.
Everybody's story is different to explain how they got where they were. So I think it's important that you own your story. I met somebody last weekend or 2 weekends ago who kept on saying, I won't be here today if not life happened. I won't be here today if not that life happened. And I had to call the person's attention to it at some point to say, you've got to let go of this badge of life happened. Because if you keep holding on to it, it is going to keep you down. It's going to draw you down. It's going to keep you stagnant because it becomes a weight that life happened, that life happened. Do you understand? So I think I like the fact that you shared that part of your story,
Yeah.
right? In terms of, so but talk to, let's stay there in terms of that choice, right? Finally going for, what was your dad's reaction to that? And earlier on in your career, did you look back at any point and feel like this wasn't the right thing for me to do? Right? Maybe because you felt your motivation was wrong, in quotes, right? So talk to us about that feeling of, did you ever at any point come and say, I regret, I shouldn't have taken this choice? You understand? I shouldn't have done this particular course, I shouldn't have chosen this career path, and talk, let's dive into that a little bit.
Sincerely speaking, I don't have any regrets in terms of the choice of career. It brought me closer to my dad, who is my number one mentor. Um, but I recall when I told him I wasn't going, so he supported me in wanting to do medicine. Unfortunately, the man didn't know my motive for wanting to do it. So he gave me all the support. So, so when I then told him I wanted to switch course, that was where the fight started, that I wanted to switch to business administration. And he said, so all the science books, textbooks that he was buying and all of that, what was it for and everything? So, but I have one of my uncles, also came into it and all of that, that if that's what he wants, why not? So from day one of taking that was so, and then I started carrying myself interestingly, the kind of relationship I have with God now, I didn't have it then. But I carried myself in such a way that I knew my classmates, my what do we call classmates, from year one they call me manager. If I share some of my old pictures, I had this long tie. I don't like tie again now, and I was always wearing the very big suit that my dad had. So I carried myself from school that I was going to be an HR manager. Maybe the pain for me was that it also sort of narrowed my way of thinking. Everything I saw was HR. Everything I saw was HR. So, in terms of understanding, so I found myself in financial services, and for a while, I struggled a bit with understanding some other aspects because I was just seeing everything from the perspective of HR. But thank God for good managers, good leaders. Some of them, Mian is almost like number one, and the likes. So there were certain things that I was able to learn from them, and of course from my dad also. So I got exposed to a lot of books in his office when I was writing my project in school. I sat down in my dad's office. Of course, he was a man there, and then he had people working with him. So they devoted time for me. So looking back, sincerely, there's no regrets in terms of the choice of HR. However, I will look back and say maybe I should have learned something earlier, and then not just because back then, Nneka, if you are not speaking HR, I'm almost seeing you as you don't know anything. You must speak the language of HR. But of course, over time, I was able to then open up. Then jokingly, I tell some of when I see people, young people who say, "Oh, I want to go into HR. I want to go into this." I try to find out why. And for some of them, I'll tell them there's no money in HR like that. So you really need to think about it very well. Yeah. I,
I
I
like I
think my
like what
network is still struggling.
a little bit, but it's fine. I think we can still manage. I like what you've shared, right? About a narrow mindset because of this is what I want to do. And I think
Yeah.
that is so important, and I'm going to take a tangent from there, that people are aware of this. Our world today literally requires you to know a little bit about different little things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we cannot be so narrow focused. We're not saying don't be an expert, but you need to be able to be broad a bit and know a little bit more about different things. So can you share with
Yeah.
us specific example, an example or two around this, your concern you've expressed about this narrow mindset? How did it show up? Where did it, how did it hold you back at any point? Right? And how can someone, or how can someone even know and know that, oh, because if you shared an example, anyone that wasn't doing anything HR, you looked at them one way. But how did it show up in your
Yeah.
conversations and interactions, and how would you advise younger Jimmy to have shown up differently as regards this narrow mindset, way of thinking? Oh, network, are you back? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please go
Interestingly,
ahead.
the network has been. So I head up to the.
Oh, it is shaking again. You are back. You are
Um,
back.
yes, I am. Sincere apologies, but those of us in Nigeria, you probably understand.
It's no, I have many. I have alternatives,
Okay,
plenty.
so
But
maybe
please
if
go
I
ahead.
got the question was about how did the that narrow-minded view, how did it show up and all of that. So,
How did it show up,
um,
and how would someone know that, I actually have a narrow-minded view? You've already given an example of one around the way
yeah,
you would look at people. But how did it show up for, and then because you talked about good managers, how did it show up?
okay. So a few years, several years ago, I just did a personal reflection to see how many people who started as HR have actually grown to be MD of corporations. And I see that there are very few. One person that I saw early was the late Christopher Collade of blessed memory. I think he has a bit of background in HR, did a few things. So the numbers were just not so much there. And for me, okay, what's the pool of HR? Say chief HRO, CHRO, the different titles you want to call them and all that. But in terms of having that overall scope of the entire organization, I realized, and it was one of the motivations for me when I left UBN back then. And the things that I have learned in the last 6, 7 years, again, I will give a lot of credit to the people who had worked with me and Kunle, who sort of also then exposed me. I remember at the point where I did a presentation to the CFO of Union Bank back then, Mrs. Oyin Adewale. I've forgotten her other name now. And it was about presenting, and I was really scared. And but the feedback I got was that she was kind of impressed with my presentation. I was like, and all that. So because I knew I needed to then expand my understanding of a few things. Today where I work, in fact, I'm not boasting, and I'm not trying to boast. There's a report that was shared in terms of a deposit drive. And the highest individual deposit that we have, I actually brought that person. And I'm in HR. I'm not in business. So it was for me looking at it over the years to say, I'm not just going to sit down and then just look at HR alone. So those days when I'm talking, there is a bit of a lack of confidence, because I can see that there are things that people are talking about that I don't know. So how really do I want to grow? How do I want to get to that place? Remember, I think the last time we spoke when we met, and I was saying, oh, I saw, yeah, this woman also, what's her name, Mrs. Funke Amobi. She was in HR, then moved to operations. I think she's ED operations and all of that. So for me, it's just having that broader view. And so even the people that I work with, they don't. It, finance is it the language of business or something? You must be able to open yourself up. And then, of course, the sessions we had with you guys was also a very, very rewarding experience. The BIRS annual stuff that we do. So it was a privilege for me to also, learn from that space also.
So listening to you, right, I am seeing that what it's more like, did I even know how far I wanted to go? If I had a picture of what the future could look like, I could have started differently, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's very, very instructive for any young person early on in their career now to begin to ask themselves that question beyond just showing up every day at work. I came to work today, I'm doing what they asked me to do, to say, hey, what do I want work to look like for me in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And how do I begin to actively move in that direction? I think
Yeah.
it's very, very important. What do I want work to look like for me in the next 10 years, and say, how do I actively begin to move in that direction? What do I need to do, right, to move in that direction? Now, you said something, and I'm going back there. Like I said, you are the storyteller. I'm just guiding and taking from what you're saying and guiding, right? You said something, and it popped it's something I always tell people when I speak and coach generally. You said sometimes you looked at people who were not in HR and you thought, what's this person doing? Do they even know much? Now, I tell people something, right? That the way what you think about people sometimes, maybe all the time, most times, impacts, they can sense it. They may not be able to put words to it, but they can sense it. The energy you bring to the office, the vibes. So I want us to share about your experience from that angle in terms of when people show up at work, right? When they're interacting with their leaders, as a happy employee coach, I teach people how to be happy at work by teaching them how
Yeah.
to craft their relationship with their managers, right? So, in terms of that mindset when we show up in the office. Do you agree that your manager can feel what you are thinking about them, how you think about them, and what would you advise someone starting up, right? How would you advise them to approach this matter of the energy and the vibes and how they show up in the office?
Okay. Thanks, Suneka. So usually I like to start from the place of value. In terms of what value are you bringing on board, and no, I've not seen any normal human being that would disperse value away and say I don't want value. So I used to have a guy who, way back, would always join me uh, home. He was a much more younger colleague, and he would join me home. And then when we were getting ready towards, performance review and promotion and all of that, and he was like, Oga, please, don't forget me, and all of that. Now, this is a guy who, if Nneka says, oh, I want to have, maybe my son is clocking 10, I need to do some market runs, this guy he will be there. He's ever reliable. But when it comes to the core of what he has been called to do, he's almost at the negative. So and I asked him, if let's flip role, what would you do in my position? Of course, the answer was very clear. I like to create. I love I love I love an atmosphere of fun, and that's where I can thrive. So with my colleagues, with my team, I joke, we play. But you see, the moment that I begin to struggle over time with performance, and I don't like to wait till appraisal period before you give the feedback and all of that. No, in fact, appraisal period is a very easy time for me in terms of appraising my team, because everything that we will talk about, we have already spoken about them. But if a lack of performance has been consistent, and I like a particular, I think it's Webster's definition of laziness. It says habitually unwilling to work. So it's not about unwilling to work, but it has now become a habit. So of course by that time, so for young people who are coming in, and I'm saying, how do you add value? If they ask you to do A, you must try and understand why you are doing A. What are the other things? What are the other? Don't wait for, you just take all the direction. I have a very funny story. One of the one of my best guys, we used to work together, and the guy had gotten frustrated. In fact, my wife knows him very well. After some time, I was like, what do I do with this guy? Feedback was poor, the quality of work was poor. And so one day I called him, and what managers would typically do or say is that, if you can't perform, I will fire you, I will do this, I will do that. So I called him. I won't mention his name. I don't want him to feel embarrassed when he watch, because I know he will watch this. And he says, and I called him, I say, guy, I'm sure in your mind of mind, permit me, I don't know if we have international audience, but mind of mind is a Nigerian. In your mind of mind now, you are thinking, I will say I will sack you, I'll fire you. I said, no, guy, you are not going anywhere, because if you go, I'll be the only one to do the job. I said, this work, you will do it. That you and I, we have put leg inside one trouser. You will do this
Wow.
work. And so I'm not going to say I read it from a Harvard stuff. I believe it was just something that came from above. It
Mm.
was a divine, I will say it, it was a Holy Spirit inspired conversation. And a few days after, he came to meet me and itemized some of his challenges and how he wants help. Today, that same guy is HR manager for a microfinance bank.
Wow.
And it just tells me how a shift in mindset and all of that. So because the conversation would have been, oh, I will sack you, you will go, you will do this. And in actual sense, a lot of managers who say I will sack you, they actually don't have powers to sack. That's one thing I've also I've also found out, maybe by virtue of HR. And I'm not telling any young professional to go and tell the manager or tomorrow now and say you don't have the power to sack me. Well, yeah,
Be careful what you
you're
say because it may happen.
yeah. So and to a large extent, I will give that um, uh, credit to learnings from my dad, from the people that I've worked with. I don't know how much of time. There's a story I usually share with a lot of my team members and people, and it was a story shared by somebody who had worked with my dad, and he was sharing it on my dad's 60th birthday.
Oh,
My dad never mentioned it, and that story had remained in my mind and it's helped me. So he was working with my dad, is a very senior person. Um, One of the most popular brands today, he's one of their group executive, the person I'm talking about. And he said he had an interview for a head of HR role, and he was working with my dad. He was next to my dad, basically. So he went for the first level of the interview, and then they reached out to him. No, the first level, I think they had to write a paper, a thesis or something, and then he did it. The second phase of the interview was going to be at Ibadan. The office is in Lagos. He's a big man. They have offices in Ibadan, and he can as well say, you know what, let me just go visit the office and do that and all of that. So he said he weighed it and decided to open up to my dad to say, oh, well, I have this engagement interview, blah, blah. I said, my dad released his blessing and, all the best. He went there. The interview is going to be the following day. He got to the interview, and on the panel, he met my dad.
no,
I'm telling you the truth.
no.
A real life story. You can ask my dad himself. He met him on the panel. Now, Nneka, if I was that, even with telling him, I'm sure I'll probably say, let the ground open and let it just swallow me and all of that. And unknowingly to him, right, the paper, the whatever fetch that they did, I think my dad had to access it. So my dad had even known before he opened up. Now, what am I trying to say? I want to build a relationship with my colleagues, with my team member, that if they are going for something like that, they can open up to me. And I've seen it happen with a few people. It was a principle that I picked from that encounter. It's every time I remember the story, is just still very real, and I still try to. It was a man himself that said it. My dad never mentioned it. When he said it, of course, my dad, confirmed the story. That the part the man didn't even know was that he was the one maybe that marked the script or something that we. So
Hey,
I want to build a rapport, and I have a team member, a former colleague also, who had applied for 2 roles. They called him and he opened up. With the little time we've worked together, I think he was role A and not role B. And even though I know that his passion is a lot more about role B, but he hasn't grown into it. So he applied for role A and he got the job. And over the years, he then transitioned into role B. So those are principles and that's why I said I've been privileged to be able to learn a lot from some of those people ahead of us. And kudos to what you're doing also, because it's also an opportunity for people to also learn a few things. Yeah.
So this story is, the things I want to ask are plenty, but I'm just mindful of time. I'm trying to see the one that will be most impactful. Ha. Okay, let me ask, because I tend to, now what? Okay. See, let me ask this one, right? What what were things, because you talked about your dad a lot, you mentioned him a lot, talked about him being a mentor, talked about the story about him. What kind of leader was your dad that someone would, because some leaders are such that even the thought won't even come for you to have that conversation. You'd rather say that I'm ill or something, right?
Yeah.
But some leaders are
Yeah.
more accessible. So in your experience, right, let's quickly spend a few minutes talking to leaders about what can make them to be that accessible, right? And then when you're done with that, I want us also talk to employees, because I find that there's one manager, but the manager team member relationship is different per team member.
Yeah.
No matter
Yeah.
how you have that same person, the way the person relates with each person is different. So I want us to talk
Yeah.
about how do you position yourself to be that person that your manager trusts, that you can have that kind of access to them, because that access has positive sides to it as well, right? So please, let's
It does.
answer to the leader, and then please share your thoughts on, like, from a team member perspective. Yes.
Okay. In terms of what kind of leader do I want to be, and I saw people who, let me use the phrase, who were ready to lay down their lives. Of course, not literally, for my dad. I saw people who helped me because of the kind of uh, person, my dad's personality. In fact, my first training conference abroad, uh, it was because of something that my dad had done. It was a fully paid for conference, and till today, I've not been able to measure up to him. We're trying, but I and my dad is not a man of many words to us. In fact, I can talk from morning to afternoon. You just get one response from him, okay. But he lets you learn by action. So, as a leader, your words, do they match your actions? If you're a leader who is going to instill discipline, are you disciplined? If you're a leader who is going to demand certain things, have you done those things? So anytime I say let's do some things, I always boast to. I say there is nothing I tell you to do that I can't do, because I don't want a situation where a team member or somebody holds me to ransom or something. So um, a leader must also show empathy. A leader must, and I think one other very important one is vulnerability. So the moment your team members know that you are Mr. Perfect, it's going to be difficult for them to open up to you. Oh, we can't make mistake. And I was once like that. Again, I'm grateful to all of the leadership learnings, coachings. That, oh, you are a perfectionist. I've heard that thing. You are a perfectionist. You are this. You are that. It's good, but give people allowance. And the way I will say it, I say the first time when you don't get something right the first time is a mistake. The second time or third time is no longer a mistake, it becomes an error. So how then you must be able to differentiate between mistakes and errors. And then the approach you will use for each will be different. So for instance, if I'm speaking and I say something like, I didn't came late, everybody knows that is, I don't know what kind of AK-47 that will be. But immediately after I say it, I correct myself. Oh, sorry, I didn't come late, or I did not come late. You will see that as a mistake. But if I say I didn't came late and Nneka says, Sorry? And I repeat, I didn't came late. Or I say I didn't just came late. It's no longer a mistake, it's an error. And how do you then, address that? Now, coming to the second part is, so I read again, it was one of the trainings we had in Union Bank, Edward de Bono's Seven Thinking Hats. Is it 6 or 7 now? It's a concept that has really helped me. It talks about the white hat, the black, the green hat, the yellow hat, the blue hat, the red hat. And so if you have people in your team, they are going to wear different hats. In fact, it is dangerous when all your team members wear the same type of hat, the same hat color. If they are all black, for instance, they say they see them as pessimistic, but they are a bit cautious. So a black hat is somebody who will say, this investment you want to do, are you sure about it? What if this has happened? And you have another colored hat that says, you know what, oh, there's this type of investment, let's go for it. And that's how some people will fall for MMM, CBEX, or whatever you call them, right? So I think we as leaders, we must be able to know which hats any team member is wearing. So that helps me if I see from the perspective you are coming. And one of the things we learned, we never indicate I disagree with you. We never say it. I disagree with you. I don't agree with you. We never say it. I have a different opinion. The moment you say I disagree with you, you already put that person on the defensive. So a lot of what you say, the person probably might not hear it. So from the team member perspective, leading is also knowing what type of hats they wear. It then helps to, fit everybody into, the appropriate frame. Thank you.
I've taken notes. I've been taking notes all through, but this particular one you shared now, was very poignant for me. That fact of not I disagree with you, but I have a different opinion. And I like what you highlighted about perfectionism, right? If people feel like they can't measure up to your standard or that you are not like them, they can't find those commonalities between your own experience and where they are, then they are like, there's no point, almost like there's no point trying, you know, and almost
Yeah.
like there's nothing that we're going to do that will make you happy anyway. So last, you will still talk, you will still shout. So it's really, let's just do what we can. We cannot come and kill ourselves, So that's really, really interesting.
I still have some
Wow.
areas where I'm still struggling with that, even at home. So there are some things that you can't do for me that my wife will say, okay, we'll still see how long or how far you continue to go with these things. Yeah.
Mm, mm. Interesting. So I usually like to keep this to like 60 minutes ish, and sometimes under, just respecting people's time.
Yeah.
It just depends. But I want to just ask you something around salary and this notion, that salary is what you are paid to forget your dreams. Salary is a handcuff on this. Let share with us, right? Your advice to someone who is just starting out, what you would tell younger Jimmy about salary and managing salary. What would you share from your experience? And even as an HR person, from the various people you've had to deal with, right, in the course of work, what would you tell them?
So I've heard that, and a lot of conversations. In fact, there's an acronym for job, just over broke or something. Some interesting people give different acronyms to things and all of that. And one of the biggest blunders that I almost made
Go and take.
at the beginning of my career was, of course, I was working, and then my friend and I, we had some things we were running by the side, and it was looking very good. And I decided at some point that I was going to call it quits on my job because I've heard, you don't have to do salary, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, and all of that. And I'm sorry, for some people, your calling might be in the career space. and you will build wealth. There might not be too many of it. And this is not to say don't have some things that you do by the side. I'll use Union Bank as an example. One of the things I love a lot about the organization, there was a guy who was he works with the bank and he's also a DJ. And any event the moment the bank knew that this guy was a DJ, any event we wanted to have then, it was the guy that we're giving it to. What does it tell employees? As if you are not competing with your employer and you have some things running by the side, it's fine. Some other people have roles that are so demanding. I used to have a few things that I was doing at some point, and there was no how I cope. So the way I used to run my stuff, and I tell my wife, so I split my salary into two, and I say one is the salary that my employer is paying me. The second leg is the salary that I'm paying myself. So we keep our expenses to just one side of it. And except certain things we have to take by loan, a number of those
Hmm.
things we won't. Of course, I'm not against taking loans. I've taken a number of loans. I've taken opportunity, and but so if I say the other half is what is my own income, I have a few other things that I also would run by the side and stuff like that. If the other half, I keep it as I am paying myself for this, for that, and this, and watch it. And sincerely, we spoke about what you are doing and the likes. You begin to build base. You begin to opportunities would come, and it won't be a case of, oh, I've not done this. So there was a time where part of what we had even set aside was sufficient to sort out our children's school fees without touching the principal at some point. So, and that's what I would say. If you have something going by the side, my wife has a catering business, and I hope you won't charge me for for advert. She's also a certified chef, and it was until last year that she quit her paid 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 regular job to say, okay, I am focusing on this because we built over some time. She's been able to build the client base, and then over some time, we can then say, okay, yes, I'm going into it. And then even with that, there are certain expenses we will not incur. We run everything from the house. We're not paying for any other stuff outside. And a lot of these things is done from that second leg of what you're paying yourself. So if you are fortunate to have something running by the side, fine. And you have your 9 to 5 stuff that is going fine. But if you are a salary earner and nothing has come, I believe so strongly that you can still live within whatever it is, except it is extremely bad. We saw someone one time who said, I need to rent this accommodation and all of that. I say, why do you have to live at Chevron? There's house around Dawoyaya, get something cheaper. Again, or you want to go to the mainland, so you find a way. If salary cannot increase, cut down your expenses. And
Hmm.
there are so many things. I have an Excel spread all the way from 2007. Unfortunately, I lost my laptop was stolen at some point in 2016, and I've not done proper backup. Today, I have a paid Microsoft account, so I have the details from I think 2016 of every kobo that I have spent. If I
Now I know
buy,
why we are connected. That's the real issue. Sorry, please
I
carry
have
on.
I have a histogram or whatever you call of every. If I recharge card 5 naira, 1 naira. My daughter just got admission to study medicine in the university. She has started her own. Thank you. She has started her own, and she came back and said that this thing is really helping me. And I'm not I'm not worried that whether she will stop. I don't check it again. The first 1 2 months I was checking, but now it has become a part of her. And I'm asking her, what does this do for you? It helps me to see whether which area do I need to cut down. I stopped DSTV subscription in 2020 because I looked at what I was paying and I looked at the value that I was getting, and it wasn't really worth it. So we switched part of the savings there. Okay, we started doing Netflix or do some other things or stuff like that. Some things that are not necessary, we won't do it, of course, and some other things. So, and the spread has helped me. I look at it every month. I look at, oh, how much am I spending on fueling? How much am I doing on this? How much can I give out? How much can go into savings? And I think it's been quite very helpful for me. So that's what I would say for salary earners like us.
Okay, thank you. So someone asked a question, right, as we wrap up. Let me read the question out. It's on Instagram. I have a question. Where I currently work, the organization is struggling because they are understaffed. She's been with them for a while. She wants to leave, but because the pay is very low. But how can she leave without hurting feelings or burning bridges? How can she live without hurting feelings or burning bridges? Before you answer, let me just say that what Jimmy shared about having a template where you track your expenses is critical. That feeling cannot be quantified when you look back at where you were coming from and you can account for all the monies that have come into your account. It looks like a proof of life, like, okay, you lived, you went to work, earned a salary, and then there's proof of what you use that money to do, right? So it's important that you are intentional with how you use your salary. That one we can't even go into. Maybe another show will invite you
That, that's
and
that's
really
your that's
sit
your space.
and really
Yes.
unpack this issue of how salary earners use money, so that you don't wait until you work 20, 25 years and you're filled with regrets, right? But as we wrap up, please answer this question for this person. What are your suggestions on how she should manage her exits in view of she's been there for a while, she doesn't want to burn bridges or hurt people's feelings? And I feel like women struggle from this one more. But yes.
Nneka, I didn't want to leave Union Bank at some point. I was so emotionally connected to the bank. But I think maybe as Africans, I think we're quite very emotional and sentimental. And this is not to say bomb bridges. There are some times when you have to think about you. What is good for you, not in the short term, in the long term. What works for you? Uh, as much as I would say, don't just jump out. If you are going to jump out, what are you jumping into? Otherwise, you will realize that that salary that you say is not enough. You will realize is a lifesaver. So don't just don't just jump. Whatever you are jumping, you must be sure you are jumping into something worthwhile. But when the time is right, don't let's not get too sentimental about it and all of that. And I've found myself, because everywhere I've worked, I've always had that connection, Union Bank, Smart Cash, Glow, and all of that. And at some point, I remember in Glow in particular, it was a tough case. But I had to tell my ED then that because of my career progression, I needed to learn a few things that I might not learn there. And he saw reasons, and he released me with his blessings. Um, when I left Union Bank, a number of my guys were not very happy with it, but it was a decision. Me and I'm not sure if that fight has finished safe, but it was a decision I had to take. But it doesn't mean that I'm not in talking terms with these people that I fought with them or something. But I just had to make that move. I dropped sentiments, dropped emotional stuff, bias there, and then I faced myself. But I maintain solid relationship with these people. Don't burn bridges. Don't fight people. Do it in a very good way, in a very very professional way. When I was leaving where I was to where I am now, it was almost going to, but I had a very deep conversation with my MD, and I got his blessings before I left. So I would advise, please don't just leave because it is small. think through it very well. And I think it might be a conversation you want to have with Nneka much more after this. And then when you are leaving, let's drop that emotional, sentimental. I don't know if it's an African thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
because we
you.
come to work with that mindset of it. It's almost like they are doing you a favor after everything they've done for you, as if you were not
Yeah.
adding value, right? Now you want to. So I agree with you. When it's time, you got to tell yourself that it is time to actually leave because there is a bigger world outside that place where you are in. And you're depriving yourself of what you could gain by not exploring that world. Okay. We've been here for going to an hour now, and I'd like to, bring this session to a close. Thank you so much for your time. I am super, super, super grateful. I don't take it for granted that you're giving your time to us this evening, and it's been very engaging both on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So thank you very much, Jimmy. I appreciate this, and I'm sure that when we come again, you will grant us audience, right? Because I feel like there's more to discuss around the money one in particular. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
and thank you to
much.
everyone. Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Thank
please.
you. Well done. Well done for the great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank
And
you. Thank you,
thanks
everyone.
to your husband who also creates that enabling environment.
Yes, so shout out to him. Yes, so he's doing an amazing job. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone who has stayed live with us. I'm sure you got value. Please repost it on LinkedIn, repost it on Instagram, repost on your WhatsApp status. Let people also learn from today's session, C Suite Speak. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night from here.